It's Randy. Can you talk a little bit about Reeder, how he's doing? He's kind of intriguing to me.
He's doing good. Randy, he's learning, but he's a veteran. So his poise level and patience is good. It helps him. So I think he's done a great job and still learning, like he's had 5 practices or whatever in this defense. So, I think he's where you would think he would be. And I think he's doing great.
John, this is Scott Docterman. I wanted to ask about Greg Eisworth's impact on the program the last few years, and how are you going to be able to replace him and what he could do, not only on the field, but just in his leadership and just general efficacy, I guess. Well,
I think, Scott, I think he was a great leader for our team. I think guys gravitated towards him from when he got here. High character guy and worked really hard and was a team player and, played a lot of positions for us. But I think the blessing of those guys, a guy like Greg, I think he had a tremendous impact on guys like Anthony and, Tavon Kyle. And, I think, Bo, was a young guy. And so you hope those guys have learned great lessons from him and will continue to lead and really be the things that he was. And, I don't know that you look to ever, replace guys. I think you hope that they trained, as you do as a coach, train young people to become who they were and hopefully even better. So I'm grateful for that. All of our young people recognize with those guys the help that they were given by that group. And he certainly was one of the leaders.
Hi, John. Rob Gray here. How are you?
I'm great, Rob. You?
Doing well. Thanks.
Awesome.
Wanted to piggyback off Randy's question about Reeder. I mean, what's the value of, you mentioned veteran, I think he's 25 years old and played a lot of football. When you lose a Jay Hummel, when you lose a Mike Rose, you've got a good nucleus coming back, but you add that type of veteran talent and leadership to a mix.
Yeah, I think, again, and not to overstate it, but again, just I think the patience and poise level, he is a veteran. So, he doesn't get crazy about things that he doesn't know. Like he's smart enough to know what he doesn't know, and he continues to learn. And, I think, as a group, we've tried to help our guys along. It's a lot of new folks. A lot of guys, I think, have never even been in a real spring practice. So I think all those things are learning, but I don't think, again, the age is a huge benefit if you have some poise and some patience about yourself. And I think he does. He's a veteran player. He doesn't get too high or too low. He just continues to work and play well. So I've been very pleased with him. Got a lot to learn yet, but he surely is learning.
Thanks. And a quick follow-up. What does it mean to have Anthony Johnson and Will McDonald back, and what can those guys do as they continue to evolve already as really impressive football players?
Well, I think the leadership part, I think what, piggybacking off of what Scott had asked earlier, I think the reality of it is, those guys were showing great examples here over the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. And so I think it becomes their role now to lead and teach and, what are the standards? How do we play defense? How do we handle ourselves as a team? I think those are the things that we really lean on those guys because there isn't a lot of them. There isn't a lot of veterans on this team. It's a young group. It's a new group. And, that's exciting. I think it also puts extra onus on some of those veterans that have been here and been through spring ball and winter conditioning. It's been probably 3 years since we've had spring practice. So I think that's huge.
Thanks, John.
John, we mentioned Anthony Johnson there. I'm curious, where did the idea of him kind of transitioning to safety come from? Who kind of brought up that idea first? And I guess, what have you seen from him so far at that spot?
Well, it gives you some versatility. The field safety is a little bit of a different spot. And I think, just depth of, losing, a couple of those older guys, in the middle back there. And then I think his skill set, I think that he's grown, he's gotten himself so much bigger than he was when he started out. And I think, kind of grown into a safety, and yet has the corner skills. So it's really allowed us to do some different things. I don't know specifically where it all started. Probably a little bit of everybody. I think we all kind of, man, that's a spot he can play. He's big. He's, like I said, grown, and then he's got tremendous corner coverage skill. So I think it's a real plus. Again, still learning a lot of stuff there. It's a difficult position to play. It's not easy. And, I think he's doing a great job as well. And I think that's the biggest thing, probably just learning it. But that's where it all kind of started from. I think we all just kind of agreed with it. And again, he's got skills, and again, he's grown.
You mentioned Will before. I guess what was the level of discussion you had with him in the offseason, just kind of his decision to come back to Iowa State and not go to the NFL? I'm curious, what kind of discussions did you have with him?
Yeah, I just have college experiences with him. Coach Campbell handles all of the other things. I think we get a lot of input from a lot of people. I would be probably the wrong person to ask. I mind my own business when it comes to that. I try to share with him what we can, opportunities we can give him as a defensive group, and what opportunities he has. But Coach Campbell handles pretty much all that stuff and works through a lot of different folks to come up with a plan for those guys that gets best for them.
Thanks.
John, as good as Will was last year, what still does he need to work on?
I think, I guess if you would ask me a year ago, the same thing as any. I think just continuing to be a four-down football player, great pass rush skills, being able to understand that people now are sliding protections to him, putting extra guys on, and how do I handle it? Being able to play in there in 1st and 10, and being 10 and 2nd down, 3rd and short. And I think all of the things, and again, continuing to add tools to his basket of being a complete player. And I would have said the same thing about all those guys that came back a year ago. I think he was in the same boat. He's got an opportunity now to add tools into his toolbox. It's a choice he's going to have to make to do that. And so far, it's been, I think, really good. But I think you learn a lot more. I mean, I look at those guys that stayed a year ago. You really learn a lot more about the game. And I think that's one area you can grow in and continue to get better at.
Hi, John. Rob again. Isaiah Lee, obviously his role can expand greatly here, and a lot is probably going to be asked of him. How did he come out of winter conditioning? How did he look as he started spring ball, and what has he shown you so far?
Yeah, I mean, done a good job. I think everybody's been pleased, and I think everybody, it's the same thing. You're just trying to continue to grow, get your guys better. It is a completely young and new group, and it's going to take a lot of, as I just shared with you, like, to play this game, you can't play by yourself, and you have to be willing to listen and learn and get help from other players and coaches and on the field and off the field. I think if that group, and specifically there, I just think we get better and better.
Yeah, this is Scott again. Ryan Vance has played a lot of really good football for you for a lot of years now. And he's going to be in a position group where he's not going to have Mike Rose next to him anymore. What do you expect from him? And do you expect more than maybe you did previously? And whether that's not just playmaking, but just kind of, whether it's leadership or just what he does.
I think it's a great question. I think that I don't know if you ever asked more of those guys. I think there's areas that they have to do more. I think areas off the field probably more so than on, because he is the veteran. He and Gary Vaughn are the veterans in that room. And then you've got a whole group of you got Colby Reeder, who's new. You got Jacob Ellis, who's new. You got Miles and all those guys first, and then that whole group, all those kids that came in here, it's all a brand new group. So you're trying to teach them standards. The players do the best job of that, what's expected, how they practice, how they study the game. That's the stuff you really need, him to do more of, because those guys don't know. Mike knew, Jake knew, Gary Vaughn knows, but now it's he and Gary, and the rest don't know. And I think that's where you need him to do more. I think on the football field, you got to be yourself and play within the defense. And again, as they get experience, they play better football.
John, how do you give younger players game level experience in practice?
Well, I think situational. I think Coach does a great job of putting the guys under duress at practice. I don't think it has to be, I've been doing this a little while. I just don't think you have to, every day has to be a physical or a mental beating. I just think there's got to be situational football. And the more of that you get, the better you get at it. And, I think all of those guys, if you would sit and say, hey, what do we need? Well, we need repetitions because, we just haven't. I think you have the ability as a coach to put pressure on them in meetings, how you teach as a school teacher. You know the answer. You got the ball's getting snapped, and there's different things to force those things to make the games easy. So practice and in the meetings, and as teachers, you got to make it as hard as you can. They can think as fast as they can, put them on the spot, and then again, get repetitions in practice. But those are the only things. There's nothing that replaces a real game. But you can sure put pressure on them as it goes. Meetings and on field and situational football.
John, before the Cheez-It Bowl a couple months ago, you had kind of talked about the senior class that left you guys a couple months ago and just kind of their impact. And I think you called them the secret sauce that kind of made your defense what it was over the past couple of years. I'm curious, with a lot of those guys out of the picture now, does that change things for how you guys are going to be doing things on defense? Does that change kind of how you approach, game management? Just kind of talk us through, I guess, how you approach losing those type of guys.
I don't approach it any different. This group will still be the secret sauce. And you hope that the recipe is handed down like good recipes do through the family. And that's what you hope happens. And that's, again, back to the original early question. That's where Ryan Vance comes in. That's where Anthony Johnson comes in. That's where Taylor Powell comes in. That's where the veteran guys come into play. And they have to be able to give the recipe to the young guys. The young guys got to be willing to read it and use it. And if they do, we'll be in great shape.